Okay, let's talk about DeVonta Smith, who I gotta be honest, I think could be a massive advantage for the Philadelphia Eagles in this game. You know, everyone talks about kind of the 1-2 punch, and even I brought it up, of A.J. Brown and Saquon Barkley, right? A.J. Brown, monster receiver, impossible to cover one-on-one. You then have Saquon Barkley, who means that you can't put two safeties deep, so you kind of have to pick your poison. But you can still put a lot of your resources on A.J. Brown, or at least as much as you can, meaning sometimes it's the depth players for the Eagles that can really come through. First, let's talk about what the Chiefs like to do. This is their favorite coverage, cover two-man. They'll do it as much as they can get away with, essentially. The reason why it can be so effective is just obviously it makes sense, right? You get one guy to cover each of the receivers, and if any receiver wants to go down the field, it's essentially becoming double coverage. So on a 3rd and 5, that's what they're going to do because the threat of a run seems minimal. They're going to start this play. You see that they don't blitz. That's also part of what they like about this coverage, is it could be a blitz, it could not be. You don't know until post-snap. And CJ Stroud's currently getting tackled, so that also helps. But as of right here, you see nobody's even close to being open right now. So that's what the Chiefs like to do. That's how they cover. So what does Philadelphia do? Well, let's see what Houston did. I think that could be an interesting comparison. So what I'm going to actually first let me put up a chart that I made. It's this one right here where you see these are the 4 corners that are going to get significant playing time in the Super Bowl, you would assume, for the Kansas City Chiefs. You have Trent McDuffie, who's kind of their star. The stats you see are PFF grades and passer rating when they're in man and when they're in zone. You see PFF not crazy about McDuffie when he's in man. Does give up a passer rating of nearly 100 when he's in man as well. You could see him go up against A.J. Brown a decent amount, or will it be Jalen Watson, who has a passer rating of just 34.6 when he is in man and a PFF grade over 90. Not quite as good when he's in zone, and neither is Chamari Connor. You also have Johnson there, who is, maybe not the best either. I think really when you get to the depth of this roster, that can be where the secondary just takes a step back, right? I mean, in previous years, Joshua Williams was a decent player for them. He's no longer playing other than special teams as of right now. I don't really know what's happened there. Obviously, they lost L'Jarius Sneed, and they have kind of replaced him with players who have played well, but they're just not DeVonta Smith's caliber. So on a play like this, what Houston is going to do is try and say, okay, let's not look at Nico Collins, who is he's their best player, right? Instead, this is Xavier Hutchinson going up one-on-one against Chamari Connor, and I don't know if Smith will be covered by Connor, how many snaps, but some. The Chiefs will mix this up. The Chiefs don't just play, okay, this is our number 1 corner, let's have him on this guy all game. They could do that in the Super Bowl. They have done that before, but it's not often what they do. As you see when this play begins, you're going to notice that Hutchinson is just winning this matchup right here. I mean, again, obviously, there's going to be reps as a corner that you win and reps that you lose. Stroud makes this throw here. This is a rep that Connor lost, but at the end of the day, again, it's one play, right? I'm not trying to sit here and say that this guy stinks or anything, but again, this is what DeVonta Smith could take advantage of. Now, of course, you could play some zone coverage if you want to, a coverage like this, if you want to try and avoid the situation altogether, but there still are ways to attack this in the passing game. For example, you are getting, on this play, Cousins looks down the field. He first wants to throw it down the field, but doesn't love what he sees there. And so instead, he's going to check down, so maybe you have Smith run more check down routes. This isn't a horrible coverage, though. I mean, listen, it didn't work on this play. The Falcons were able to convert and get a first down. But this isn't a horrible way to try and, take Smith out of the game a little bit, especially if A.J. Brown and Smith are both playing well. This might not be the worst thing in the world. Of course, there are issues. For example, the play you just saw could happen. You can throw underneath. But also, the reality is, the Chiefs, who like to show 2 safety deep coverages, that's what the Packers are doing here. This is a 3rd down and 12, so you would think, okay, obvious passing situation, that's why the Packers are doing it. The Eagles still decide to run the ball right here, and listen, it doesn't fully work out, but they are able to gain a decent amount of yards. They gained 7 or 8 yards on that play. Had that been a first down, it would have been a great play. You don't want to play 2 safeties deep against the Eagles too much. You got to have a safety deep, and that means there will be opportunities for both A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. Something like this is exactly what I'm talking about. So here, 3rd down and 6. Weirdly, so I went back and I was looking for a tape of, I try to, when teams haven't played each other and I'm doing my previews for the playoffs, I try to find examples of when they played similar other teams. So I was looking for a team with multiple really good receivers that the Chiefs played against this year. There really isn't one, actually. They played Cincinnati, but Cincinnati didn't have T. Higgins in that game. They played San Francisco, but San Francisco didn't have Brandon Ayuk, they didn't have Deebo Samuel in that game, save for 4 snaps. They also played Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay didn't have either Chris Godwin or Mike Evans in that game. They did play Houston earlier in the year when they had Tank Dell, but Tank Dell went down in that game. So weirdly, I don't know. I mean, honestly, Atlanta was kind of the best example I could think of a team that just has several good receiving options with, obviously Drake London being their star, and then Darnell Mooney being the number 2 guy in this game. So you see right here, you have Drake London in a one-on-one matchup. This is kind of the A.J. Brown role. And then you have Darnell Mooney running this more over-the-middle route. Okay, this is something that can work. Watch, as you see on this play, Darnell Mooney, just kind of a pick as well. He's winning this rep. Now, this is against Jalen Watson, who is a very good corner, right? He's the guy who I was talking about as maybe the guy you put on him if you don't have him on A.J. Brown. You would assume Jalen Watson or Trent McDuffie will be on Smith. It could work, and it could happen and could have success, or it could go like how it's going now. Now, Cousins on this play decides not to look in that direction. Instead, he decides to push the ball down the field, trust his A.J. Brown, which is Drake London. Here, though, not quite able to work out. There was a window, throw was just a bit off, but still, it wasn't a huge window, but still, that's what can happen. And as for DeVonta Smith, I mean, he's very good at these routes, right? This play right here is this quick over-the-middle route on a 3rd down and 5, one-on-one matchup. As you see, Hurts takes the snap. He looks over here, and, he's actually looking somewhere else, but Smith is open. If he wanted to throw to Smith, he could. This is probably a 1st down. Instead, Hurts decides to throw to a much more open player. So again, if guys are getting that open down the field, then it doesn't matter. But I'm using this as kind of an example of, in previous games, those other guys were getting wide open. This is, sometimes A.J. Brown can get wide open. In this game, maybe it'll take him away, and you might have to look towards Smith. So that's what could be interesting. But also, if it's zone coverage, I could really see Smith being a key player here. He's a guy they like to look a lot at when it's zone coverage. A play like this, okay, maybe you get some of these situations like quarters coverage or cover 2 zone when it is a obvious passing situation. Here, that's just kind of what the Packers do. But watch how Smith's just able to run this route, get into a gap in coverage, and, get open enough that they're able to make a play, pick up the 1st down. Again, he's so good at those types of plays. So for Kansas City, whether it's Jalen Watson, whether it's Trent McDuffie, or whether it's someone else, they have to make sure they defend him tight. And honestly, if I'm Kansas City, I know you sometimes like to put Chamari Connor on him. I know you like to put some of these other guys who aren't bad. I want to be clear. I like Chamari Connor as a player. I want Watson or McDuffie on both of those 2 guys at all times. I don't want to have reps where I don't care if he's in the slot, put McDuffie on him, right? That's just how I view it. The other thing you can do is zone coverage stuff. So right here, it's going to be a zone coverage play. Hurts is going to run the ball towards the bottom of the screen, runs a play action, and then you see how this concept can work for, I've circled Smith. You see his route. There can definitely be a window that can open up there, as you see. So, Jalen Hurts takes a snap, rolls out, fires on the run, and Green Bay, someone should have picked him up. Green Bay kind of blew this coverage, but on top of it, they blew it because it's a good concept. And that's the last thing, is if you want to say, well, okay, maybe we can cover A.J. Brown one-on-one a little, but we can't cover him and DeVonta Smith one-on-one, and we can't play, quarters coverage or cover 2 zones, so let's play cover 3 zone every play. They can scheme up against that. You can't just play one coverage against Philadelphia, or they will beat you like what they're doing here. Hurts, of course, makes that throw. Smith's able to pick up a good amount of yards as well, so good stuff by those 2 players, but, this is just what they can scheme up. So as a whole, are there ways Kansas City can man up against Smith? It's certainly possible. I'm just not seeing it, because I think that, again, for them to have this work perfectly, if you want to double A.J. Brown, like I said, I like Jalen Watson, and I really like Trent McDuffie. Maybe you do the thing where you put McDuffie on Smith, and then you double team A.J. Brown the other side. That's probably what I would do. But that's just not really what the Chiefs do. They like to blitz. They like to have different guys cover each of the receivers, and they like to leave Smith, one-on-ones on whoever he ends up lining up against. And I think that there could be some mismatches there. So as for my final predictions chart, where I give each team a plus 1 through 5, depending on who I think has the advantage, I'm going to give the advantage to Philadelphia for the DeVonta Smith versus the Chiefs secondary players. Don't get me wrong, the reason why it's not more than that is because I can see a scenario where the Chiefs are able to really cover this well, and I think it could be a really interesting matchup. But again, that's what's fun about football, is it is in many ways a sport about depth. And in fact, I think even Dallas Goedert, which is the video I'm going to upload next, could be even more of an impact in this game, because ultimately depth matters. We always view this as stars, but you can kind of game plan around stars. You can't game plan around depth players. It's kind of just, you're screwed in that scenario unless you can cover everybody. You usually, if you have a depth issue, you're going to have trouble. But I don't think it'll be a massive swing one way or the other. Although I could see, actually that's not true. I could see it being a bit of a massive swing in Philadelphia's favor. I think for them to win this game, they might need it to be a massive swing in their favor. But at least that's how I see all of it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.